So now comes to the fun part, dissecting why I think this book might be so popular, and going into kind of, I guess, my just general takeaways and what I've learned from reading Red, White, and Royal Blue. It's kind of for the reason Casey McQuiston's, I think, set out to do why it's so popular, is it takes the really common popular trope of, you know, Prince Charming, and brings it to, I guess, a wider audience in terms of this is not something you see too often in LGBTQ+ fiction. It's a generally digestible book. It doesn't deal with too many really heavy themes, of course with the exception of the outing storyline. The book as it exists is relatively inoffensive. When I called it Pete Buttigieg in book form, I still think I really hold that. Or to average audiences, it's palatable. Nothing too offensive, nothing too far. It's a quick, fun read, but not something with much depth that it's going to challenge straight people to think about cis heterosexism. Nor is it going to challenge white people to think about racism very deeply other than haha, laugh at the racist. For those people who can't stand the politics of the book, the element is still relatively small enough that I think plenty of people can still enjoy the book. While many people find the pop culture references kind of annoying, it's still relatively inoffensive and honestly fits well with a lot of the people that you would see that would be on TikTok in the first place. And I would be absolutely remiss to not talk about the Rivals to Lovers plotline and how popular Enemies to Lovers is on TikTok, which definitely played a big role in why it's so popular. So now on to personal takeaways. I don't think I'll be reading anything else by Casey McQuiston. I think this will probably be it. I really don't vibe with their writing style too much and the way they write characters, and honestly, this book left such a sour taste in my mouth. I don't want to read anything else they've written, especially knowing some of the more offensive lines that exist in One Last Stop. And kind of the big other second takeaway is I don't think I will be reading any more books written by white authors where the prospective character is a person of color. I think I'm just gonna stick to own voice representation to that extent, and reading books by authors of color, with main characters of color, or just reading, if I'm gonna read a white author, I'm just gonna read a book that just happens to have a diverse cast in which the main character isn't a person of color, because I am exhausted of reading white authors deal with racism really poorly.